And welcome to this terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming to you today as we do every day live from the Newsmax headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. We're on every day from noon to 2 Eastern. And we're in Midtown, just downtown. Before we get this terrific Tuesday started, we go to the New York Stock Exchange, where it's slightly in the red today. Market down about 47 points after yesterday having a big 250-point gain, coming off some Donald Trump having second thoughts and backing off some of his the fears of the markets that he may be slapping additional tariffs on China, saying the negotiators are back at the table. Markets are down a little bit today, but it's the dog days of August, and many of the traders that are usually trading these stocks are off for a long weekend, and it's mostly program trading. So I feel there'll probably be, absent some crazy tweet by our president, it should be a meandering week. And as we speak on the Bitcoin front, for all you crypto maniacs out there, Bitcoin is at 10,200 today, down just a little bit, but continuing to hold that 10,000 support level. And I think we should be in good shape there. And supporting me every day, just to my left, my co-host, managing editor of Liquid Lunch, Frank Morano, joins me as usual.
Hello
Frank,
there, John.
how are you?
I'm doing great.
It's a terrific Tuesday.
It certainly is.
It's a terrific day every day when you're next to me.
Wow, it's very sweet.
And yesterday, after the show, we followed up our Liquid Lunch with a further Liquid Lunch. And we went over to the Park Avenue Saloon to work on some creatives for today's show. Mm-hmm. And a wonderful time was had by all, me,
certainly
you,
by me,
and Nico, our associate producer. And after that, you had to go home. But I did as I always do and worked as long as I could. And as you know, you were invited. Our good friends over at Adam Weiss, AWPR, invited us to the Judge Janine book party.
That's right, always a good time.
And although you couldn't accompany me, I took Nico as my +1. And lo and behold, we saw a whole bunch of people. Commissioner Carrick was there. I thanked him for coming on with us last minute on the Pantaleo ruling. And Manny Alejandro was there. He's a regular contributor. He was on Liquid Lunch yesterday. And America's Mayor was there. Of course, Rudy was there. And no, Rudy Giuliani was there. And I had a few minutes to talk to Rudy. He said one of these days he's going to try to get down here and have a Liquid Lunch with us. And there were a host of luminaries there, as you would imagine. And I was like a fanboy almost, although, you know, we host our own show. There were all these Peter Hegseth from Fox and Friends, and everyone was there. But all of a sudden, the seas parted, traffic stopped. Secret Service guys came rushing in from everywhere, Frankie. And who do you think comes walking in?
The president?
Not the president, but Donald Jr. And pictured here, you might see he and I having a little dialogue. Donald Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle came in, and there it is. And I had a few minutes to talk to him. I thanked him for his service. I told him here at Liquid Lunch and Newsmax we were big supporters of his dad. I didn't get to request he come in because come in with us because the Secret Service started ushering him around, and you know, even Donald Trump was extremely welcoming. He knew all about Newsmax. So
Junior.
Big. It was Junior. That was he and I pictured there. Nico took kind of a poor picture with that guy in the middle of us, but we did. I could have done without that one guy's head in between us, but
yeah, I think there's you guys are basically a city block apart from one another, and
I told him, I said,
anybody.
Yeah, I mean, get in there, but I mentioned to you last night that I ran into Donald Jr. and I showed you that picture, and you thought he looked frightened.
I think he looks very concerned there. I mean, it's tough to tell that he's talking to you there, but in that photo, whoever he's talking to is clearly. It doesn't look like he's enjoying the conversation. I'll put it that way.
No, he was not concerned.
Look at this. Look. This is not the face of a man saying, "Wow." I'm really being charmed, or this is a captivating conversation.
Well, there was
or the guy that I'm talking to has really struck my interest in something.
I was standing there talking to Rudy Giuliani.
That's a look of a person saying to himself, how did this person I'm talking to get into this party? That's the look on that face.
I don't think so, because when he came in, I was talking to Rudy Giuliani, and Big Sal, Rudy's head of security, made sure that we got a few minutes with Rudy and got to talk to him. And then right when I was talking to America's Mets, and and we also, of course, got a wonderful couple minutes with Judge Jeanine.
Ah, wow, she looks lovely as ever.
She is probably the finest looking older woman I've ever seen.
Wow.
And she really looks fantastic in person.
Older than what? Older than you, or?
Well, older than me. Yeah. I'm just, she's not old by any means. She's quite young. She gave a rousing speech calling all of us to action, to stand up to the liars, leakers, and liberals. And,
Best looking older woman I've ever seen, Pat Caltabiano.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I think Judge Jeanine may be a little older than Patty.
Oh,
But,
no question.
I think so. But both beautiful women in their own right.
Older than
I think,
you, yes.
Of course. And it was a good night for Newsmax. We made some good contacts. We're going to have, a whole bunch of guests.
Great.
Thanks to our extra work.
Wonderful.
After work. And the liquid was flowing.
I don't doubt it. I understand our friends at Question Tequila really pitched in and did the right thing.
That is right.
Nice.
Question was nice enough to provide some free spirits to Judge Jeanine's book party also.
Well, that's very
Jason
admirable.
and Lenny and all the team over there are always there for us.
I'll tell you where the Question Tequila will not be flowing. If the president ever does get a sit down with Hassan Rouhani, neither of them drink, so there will be no tequila, and that is one of the subjects I'm speaking frankly about. As I just alluded to, Tehran is reacting to the news of President Trump possibly meeting Iran's speech at the appropriate time. Hassan Rouhani, in a televised speech today, said there will be no such talks unless sanctions against Iran are lifted. Since taking office, Trump has pulled the U.S. out of the multi-nation Iran nuclear deal and has significantly boosted sanctions. Bad idea, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home. Rouhani says the only way for a meeting to happen is if Washington retreats from what he called all illegal, unjust, and incorrect sanctions. And in other news, Johnson & Johnson defense attorney Sabrina Strong says the company is very disappointed and disagrees with the judge Thad Balkman's decision requiring the company to pay $572 million to Oklahoma for marketing opioids. You might say she balked at Judge Balkman's decision. Strong says the pharmaceutical company has sympathy for those who suffer from substance abuse, but insisted that Johnson & Johnson did not, repeat, not cause the opioid crisis. You might call Ms. Strong's argument a little less than strong. And finally, Newark, New Jersey's water crisis was in the spotlight during one of the city's biggest nights as they hosted MTV's Video Music Awards. Nearly 200 protesters gathered outside the Prudential Center on Monday, calling for clean water while criticizing the presence of the star-studded awards show. And that's what's happening.
That's another well done, frankly speaking. I'm getting nervous about this Iran stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't love to take the show to foreign shores. I like to talk about stuff that's important right here in our own country. But, Trump gets a little crazy with his tweets, and I'd like to see him do something to maybe get Rouhani to the table.
Well, he said he's willing to talk with him, but Rouhani says he's not willing to talk unless the president takes off these sanctions. It's very difficult to point throughout history at any area where American sanctions really worked in terms of getting a foreign policy response. Maybe you could point to apartheid in South Africa, but by and large, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Iran, the people that are hurt by these sanctions are not the mullahs, they're not the ruling class, they're not the dictators, they're not the military juntas, they're the lowest rung and the middle class, that are hurt by this. And so what does the dictator get to do? He gets to point to the starving people and say, you know who you have to thank for that? The big bad Americans.
Yeah. I think, some have said that the sanctions worked in North Korea. I mean, Trump does have him at the table, crossed the line of the demilitarized zone. He hasn't fired any rockets over the Pacific Ocean in a while, long-range missiles at least in a while. So there might be some help there. And many foreign policy experts are saying that Iran is really hurt by the U.S. sanctions.
Well, they are hurt. There's no question about that. But, you know, if you look at what's happening now with Israel attacking these Iranian-backed sites in Iraq, Syria, and now Lebanon, the Middle East, as it so often is a total powder keg. And I think we need to tread very carefully. The thing that makes me nervous is that John Bolton and Mike Pompeo have been itching for a war with Iran for over a decade. The thing that gives me a little bit of reassurance is the guy that gets that is Donald Trump. And he understands better than we do the foolhardiness of engaging in a war with Iran. So hopefully they can come back with a deal where we get a little bit stronger tests in terms of this Iranian nuclear agreement, and where we get to lift these sanctions.
That would be wonderful if we could get some sanctions lifted and get some kind of proactive, positive dialogue going.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Are you a racist?
I am not a racist.
Do you say racist things on Twitter?
I do not.
Well, neither do I. And I, too, am not a racist. But you know who's also not a racist, but just has a bad habit of saying racist things on Twitter? In a follow-up to the story we did yesterday, it's former Congressman and newly declared Republican presidential candidate Joe Walsh. Take a look at what he said last night.
Today, one of the things you said today is you've tweeted racist things in the past, but you don't think it makes you a racist?
No, I think, John, I think we're all a little bit racist. We've all said racist things. I'll bet if you and I went through everybody's Twitter feed, we're going to find things that are objectionable and offensive. I think we all have.
Yeah, I think
Count me out.
Yeah,
You're welcome to go through my Twitter feed.
Joe Walsh thinks everyone's racist.
That's
wow.
right.
Okay, that's
some country.
That's
you
a way to justify your own behavior. Well, everybody's doing it. You know, it's groovy.
Exactly.
Everybody's saying crazy things on their Twitter. I don't know. Joe Walsh to me is a joke, and him announcing his presidential bid is a knee slapper as far as I'm concerned. But there's no laughing matter coming up after this quick break, because joining us again on Liquid Lunch is Deirdre Scaramucci, the co-host of the Mooch and the Missus podcast. She's going to be sitting right here next to Frank and I in 2 minutes. You stay right there. We'll be right back.